Hey guys, welcome back to the TohirT channel. TohirT is here. I hope you had a fantastic week. Well, I've mentioned in the last video, I'm recording these videos back to back, so I'm still in the Thanksgiving week. Hello from the past. And I'm thinking about, who am I thankful for? I know I have friends and family, and those are the people who I can always express my love and gratitude in person. But for these videos, I wanted to pick someone who truly inspires me. And as you saw from my thumbnail, it is Sacha Cohen. I know. He's not the kind of actor who you can think of as an inspiration, especially if you think about his main characters like Ali G, Borat, Bruno, General Aladeen. But I'm really focusing not on his favorite main characters that we've enjoyed watching, or I enjoyed watching them on the TV and the big screen, but I'm talking about the least interesting but the most impactful characters of them all, Sacha Cohen himself. Let's do this! I'm not a Wikipedia, so I'm skipping through his biography and his personal life, and I want to showcase why I respect so much this person, this individual, through an example of a speech that he gave on the freedom of expression. Because let's face it, Sacha Cohen is a controversial figure. His movies are at best juvenile, and yes, we all enjoy them for the gruesome kind of humor that he presents. And as a teenager, when I would watch Ali G, I would find it funny for a completely different reason. Compared to what I discovered to myself, I think around Borat, when I was watching Borat, and yes, it's funny because I'm coming from that region, and it was kind of hilarious, the kind of jokes that he would make of that region by misrepresenting the character of Kazakhstan, of journalism, being the first fake news journalist. But the kind of stories he told through those people who he interviewed, who thought he's a real journalist, really changed my opinion about him, because instead of just focusing on making fun of it all, he truly aimed to extract vile agendas some people have, the bigotry, the anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim notions, some sort of nationalistic notions. All of those things came out in the interviews that he conducted through the comedy. And he himself, in the acceptance speech, when he received an award for Anti-Defamation League, acknowledged how those movies were not only to make fun of the situation, it was also to shine a light on the darkest points of human mind.
And as a comedian, I've tried to use my characters to get people to let down their guard and reveal what they actually believe, including their own prejudice. When Borat was able to get an entire bar in Arizona to sing "Throw the Jew down the well," it did reveal people's indifference to anti-Semitism. When, as Bruno, the gay fashion reporter from Austria, I started kissing a man in a cage fight in Arkansas, nearly starting a riot, it showed the violent potential of homophobia. And when disguised as an ultra-woke developer, I proposed building a mosque in one rural community, prompting a resident to proudly admit, "I am racist against Muslims," it showed the growing acceptance of Islamophobia.
Yes, I was not surprised at all when I heard that he's receiving this award. And let's face it, it's kind of hard to accept the fact that Borat, Bruno, General Aladeen can be those major influencers of the past decade, but at the same time, I hope you use it as inspiration to see that you can make a change. You can make a positive change in the world in whatever way you choose it. Even if you choose to play a fake journalist from Kazakhstan who does not even speak Kazakh language and makes juvenile jokes all around the United States. Sacha Cohen brought up a couple of very interesting points about social media, about internet, about the way our society develops, that I want to use as a focal points to highlight to you why I'm so inspired by this guy. And yes, I think first of all we need to acknowledge the fact that we're living in a very interesting time of the humanity in general, because we're moving at the neck-breaking speeds. Everything is changing around us. Internet and social media together completely change the way industries and our personal lives develop throughout every day. Imagine the world without those two things right now. It's very hard, and yet I feel like we are still that toddler who just found a shiny new tool. We're playing around with it, we kind of find it fun and interesting, we tinker with it, we may hurt ourselves with it, and we are currently hurting ourselves with it, and we're yet to discover the true potential of both of those tools. Sacha Cohen, through his speech, showcased how throughout an action, but for ulterior motives. Social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, or Google really affecting our lives. And I flip-flopped on this matter multiple times in the past, but I think it's time to face it. 2 points that I'm bringing to your attention in this video are highly thought-provoking, but I also highly recommend to you to check out the full 24-minute video. It's well worth it. Well, the first point that Sacha Cohen brought up was essentially, how far do we need to push and ask those social media websites or internet companies like Google to monitor the behavior on their platforms? After all, we've seen how those fringe groups, as far and as fringe as possible, were able to locate each other and communicate and share ideas and thoughts and essentially, simmer in their own juices. And those ideas are not necessarily always the most positive ones. You see your anti-Semitic group, you see your white supremacist group, you see your homophobic groups, all of them are joining their forces to discuss things that not necessarily should prevail or be communicated to the larger masses. So what is the role of a big company like Facebook, Twitter, and Google in policing those groups and limiting the amount of exposure and the amount of impact those people can make on our society?
We're not asking these companies to determine the boundaries of free speech across society. We just want them to be responsible on their platforms. Now, if a neo-Nazi comes goose-stepping into a restaurant and starts threatening other customers and saying he wants to kill Jews, would the owner of the restaurant, a private business, be required to serve him an elegant 8-course meal? Of course not. The restaurant owner has every legal right, and indeed, I would argue, a moral obligation to kick that Nazi out. And so do these internet companies.
I completely agree with Sacha Cohen on this one. We should never limit the freedom of speech. I think this is one of the greatest things that the United States established in their constitution, in the essence of the country, and I'm very thankful for it. But the freedom of reach is very different. We already agreed that someone like pedophiles, they should not have the platform to go and communicate and express their thoughts out there in the world and share their views with the public. So why would the bigots, anti-Semites, racists would be any different? They're also affecting the lives of the kids. It's just that in this case, they're very specific in regards to the color of their skin, their religion, or their nationality. We owe it to ourselves and, most importantly, to the future generations to make sure that the information we spread out is factual. Current generation of the teenagers and younger, up until the age of where my kids are right now, they all have access to the internet. What stops someone like a Holocaust denier to go and instill the idea that those atrocities that were taking place during the Second World War against the Jewish population never happened? They will learn about Second World War in their classroom way later than they will have access through their iPad or iPhone to the internet, to that trove of information. So I think we are responsible for helping and assuring that the kind of information that prevails across all the different sources and platforms, including these social media websites and a website like Google, is factual. There is nothing like an alternative fact. There is nothing like, oh, there is a second opinion on the scientific fact, like the Earth is round. Yes, I'm looking at you, flat earthers. So why would we even give them the platform to go and talk about it? We know factually that this is incorrect, and we should shut it down right there. The freedom of speech is not equal to freedom of reach. The second point I'd like to highlight from Sacha Cohen's speech is regarding specifically social medias and the governance of their platforms. And I'll be honest, this is a tough one for me. I grew up in a third world country. I know how usurping the power starts with usurping the control over the information and spread of the information. So putting the governance on top of the social media to me gets a little bit iffy, but at the same time, Sacha Cohen brought up very interesting points in the following segment.
Mark Zuckerberg asked, where do you draw the line? Yes, drawing the line can be difficult. But here's what he's really saying. Removing more of these lies and conspiracies is just too expensive. These are the richest companies in the world, and they have the best engineers in the world. They could fix these problems if they wanted to. Twitter could deploy an algorithm to remove more white supremacist hate speech, but they have reportedly haven't because it would eject some very prominent politicians from their platform. These companies won't fundamentally change because their entire business model relies on generating more engagement, and nothing generates more engagement than lies, fear, and outrage. So it's time to finally call these companies what they really are, the largest publishers in history. So here's an idea for them. Abide by basic standards and practices, just like newspapers, magazines, and TV news do every day.
I want us to be in a position where we can say that the Facebooks, Twitters, Googles of the world, they can do whatever they want. But at the same time, I fully realize how much we depended on them to get the information from the outside world. Think about how many things do you look up on Google, on Facebook, Twitter, you watch on YouTube. I think I get about 80% of my information through one of those 4 channels. Do I really want to trust a corporate entity to make that decision for me? I want me, and I want all of my friends, all of my relatives, everyone in the world have ubiquitous, same level of information to all the truthful facts that are currently available. I do not want the corporate entity to control that, because think about the few situations that happened just this year. We can take a look specifically at Hong Kong events. We can take a look at what's happening with Uyghurs in China. We can take a look at some of the political events that happened in the United States in 2016. Every single time, those entities did not make a decision that is right. They made a decision that is right for them. Ideologically, I know those people understand what the right thing to do is, but unfortunately, because they're public companies, I highly doubt they will make that choice if it's going to hurt their bottom line. This is the time. Social media is that tool that we do not necessarily know how to fully use. And think about cars. When back in the day we just came up with cars, people would just drive them and do whatever they wanted with them until they realized we can really hurt somebody with that vehicle. And from then on, cars are regulated, there's certain standards, there's certain rules, and everything is fine. I'm still enjoying driving. I'm sure you're still enjoying the driving. So social media is exactly the same way, in my opinion. We had our fun. Now we know that we can hurt each other with this tool. Now it's time to regulate and figure out what are the rules of engagement almost when it comes to these platforms. And yes, I know those public companies would hate to hear that, but this is the reality that we're all facing. They now have control of our lives, and that means we need to take a portion of that control back. Were you familiar with this side of Sacha Baron Cohen? Did that change your opinion on his comedy? Let's face it, it's still a bit juvenile. And what are other interesting parts of that speech you found inspirational, thought-provoking? Let us know and share links, ideas, timestamps in the section below. Again, reminder, go click on the link, check out the full speech. It's well worth it. And big thanks to Sacha Baron Cohen for being a true inspiration, for being a thought provoker, and helping us understand that we are in a very important time in our history where decisions that we'll make will have a long-lasting impact globally. And I personally and genuinely think that people are kind. Humanity is full of kind people who understand that we need to do the right thing. Yes, they're bad actors and things like that, but in general, majority are very good and willing to make what's best for the entire society. And unfortunately, it takes us discussing these tough topics. I know it's rough, it's not always comfortable, but it's important that in 2019 and 2020 we make decisions that last a positive echo effect through the rest of the century. Thank you very much, guys, for checking out this video. If you're new to this channel, go ahead, hit the subscribe button and check out the videos in the backlog. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you very much for stopping by. As always, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this video, and I will see you all next Saturday, 10 AM Eastern, on this very channel. By the way, why no one ever told me that I actually say stop by in my outro almost back to back, it's not a tautology, whatever you call it, like it doesn't sound right. And it's crazy how I went through like what? This is 78th video in this set alone, so at least 78 videos had that outro, and I never paid attention to it until last video when I was recording and I was listening it back and I was like, wait a second, I do say stop by, stop by. You guys, you should call me out on those kind of things. It helps me improve the experience. So I tried the new track this time, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!